It isn't often that you get contacted by someone who says, Johnny, I know you're into barn finds and you like unearthing derelict cars, but I think I've got something extra special for you. And this time I genuinely think this is probably the rarest, most exotic sports car barn find that I will ever encounter. Not only that, is it's really in a barn. This is a real barn find. We are in the Lake District, a beautiful place, only maybe 7 miles from Lake Windermere. And in the middle of nowhere on this, this ramshackle property that's derelict at the moment, in that barn there is a Lamborghini that's been there for, we think, 4 decades. And apart from this bit, which has recently been mown so that we can get in, no one's really paid it any attention. It's well off the beaten track. Not only that, we don't actually truly know how it got there in the middle of sheep country in Cumbria. But anyway, isn't that the joy of these barn finds? I'm Jonny Smith. Welcome to the Late Break Show. And the barn find playlists are proudly supported by Adrian Flux Insurance. That's not it. This is Dominic. Dom, thank you for contacting me about this car.
Pleasure.
The story is, and I don't entirely know the whole story here because it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
It's very odd.
So, it's not your car.
It's not my car, and technically it's possibly not even the person who owns the barn's car either, because it was dropped off about 30 odd years ago by a chap who wanted to store it. He paid a few months storage.
Yeah.
And then vanished.
Oh my gosh.
And never been heard of, seen of, don't know who he is, and it's still here, languishing.
And the owner of these barns and that house that's on the property has passed away?
Yeah, sadly passed away about 3 months ago. And now it's just part of the estate that's got to be got rid of, really. And they just asked me because they know I like cars, and I thought, well, this is your sort of thing. You might be interested.
So they don't really care about the cars?
Not particularly, no. I mean,
you got these Cavaliers. You got a Calibra, a Cavalier, and I think there's another Cav over there.
Yeah, and they just don't care. They say these might as well be scrap.
Wow.
Or sold to someone who might want to rally bits of them. I don't know. But,
yeah.
You know, it's just.
How weird, isn't it? There's a public footpath just here that I walk down.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of nowhere with all these dry stone barns and things.
Yeah. I'm surprised that it's lasted and not been discovered, and someone just gone.
I mean,
I think I'll try and get that. It's
just the last place you'd expect to find a Lamborghini.
No.
I expect to see something like the Cav, and they're getting rarer now, but an Espada. Anyway, we'll talk more about this strange story, but I've brought my gloves, I've got the barn find fleece on, because we are going to have to do some digging. It's in there, which not very easily accessible. So let's start digging. Right.
Righty.
You ready?
Yep, good. Oh, it's coming apart.
That might be a good thing. That might be a good thing. My gosh, look at it.
Yes.
I mean, for a long time, the least desirable of Lamborghinis.
I know.
But for me,
oh, it's amazing looking.
I always thought it was a spaceship. And when you contacted me and told me it was an Espada, I had a proper flashback for when I was at university. There used to be one parked on the street.
Right.
Near me in Brentford, and the owner also had a Citroen SM. Must have been like the coolest guy or girl. So, Dom.
Yes.
As we start pulling out this, you said detritus, you weren't wrong. There's a lot of old Vauxhall stuff, and there's a lot of owl pellets. There you go, look, there's an 80s Vauxhall wheel. That's probably quite rare now. That's a Nova or a
I'd imagine there's
Astra.
somebody out there who's got 3 of them, who's desperate for a 4th.
Yeah. Is it right-hand drive?
It is right-hand drive and manual.
So right-hand drive And they made 3 series of Espada, which we'll talk about as we go on, because I think this is a Series 2. You think it's a Series 2?
I think it's a Series 2, yeah.
What a crazy thing to have sat in the middle of nowhere in the Lake District. And
to be intact, because this, I mean, imagine having to try and replace this glass or this or...
Yeah. The story goes, Lamborghini, 1967, they launched 2 concept cars at different motor shows. One was called the Marzal, and then Bertoni did something called the Piranha. Car that came out in '68 is the combination of those 2 cars. Weirdly, the Bertoni Piranha was badged as a Jaguar because it was going to be a Jag, but we'll sort of another story. Needless to say, Lamborghini wanted to create a 4-seat GT car using V12 power. And originally it was going to be a 6-cylinder. It was going to have the half of the transverse Miura motor back here. And they kind of realised quickly that they couldn't package 4 people in that way. By the way, look how low it is. 0.1 metres tall. I mean, so low, even by today's car standards, so low. So you think it hasn't been out of here in 30-something years?
Possibly 30 more years, yeah.
Bloody hell. Okay, so we're going to try and open this front door, because this is the only light source in this barn, apart from the door we've come in, to get a better look at the front of the Espada. We don't know what condition it's in. I have brought my shears. It's starting to become a regular thing on a barn find. Always bring shears, always bring pruners and bloody good gloves, because I hate getting thorns in my hand. Espada is not the name of a famous bull. Like a lot of other Lamborghinis named after famous bulls, the Espada apparently is named after a sword used by a Spanish bullfighter, a matador. But anyway, who cares? I don't want to kill a bull. I actually want to get the Lamborghini, try and get it out and into the daylight, because this car is actually going to be coming up for sale. It's going to be auctioned off. But I wanted to get here first to see what it's like, how it's been sat all this time in hibernation. Are you ready? Do you want to bring it out this way, or? Oh. Come on, Douglas, out the way. Look. Look. I wonder if that's a Series 3 looking at that front grille. Right, we're going to have a look under the bay. See, that's really complete. That's remarkably complete.
It's amazing nothing's eaten it.
So 3995cc V12, 6 carbs, that's the thing that just astounds me. Chain driven, quad cam. Here's the ID plate, 400 GT, chassis number 9200. Now what's weird is, I read that these knacker ducts, which is always funny, I can't say knacker ducts with a straight face, are apparently not for the engine cooling. You can see the channel here, which this VIN plate's attached to. This was actually to ram air into the cabin, because the biggest problem they had was making sure that all 4 passengers actually had fresh air. Imagine how heavy breathing that thing was under there. This is a later car, I'm sure. We'll delve into it more. I've noticed the wheels, they look later. But I mean, this thing was 350 horsepower at 7,500 RPM. The early ones were 325, I believe. Isn't it weird that the tyres are all up? That's soft, but it's not totally flat. No. That's not flat. It's covered in owl dirt. Oh
yeah, it's an absolute state. But all this is here.
Yeah, can you see all the drilled out, the bonnet, and this? I expected all of this to host families of mice, and actually, it's good.
Usually, all the wiring would be just bare with teeth marks in it, but
it's actually really, really good. Yeah, I can't wait to have a look inside, because it's not often you see an Espada in any condition, really. I mean, 68 to 78, and they only made 1,200 cars.
That's the Italian way.
You think about that now compared to what we deem as being a low volume car, like the Urus. They probably make 1,200 Uruses in 6 weeks. So yeah, obviously there's been owls and all sorts of other birds in the rafters. It's been shat on for years, and but it looks very solid. You're going to get the first look inside. That is what a real barnfind Espada in right-hand drive looks like. I'll get the torch round if I can. You know, the seats and the carpet look surprisingly good. And that weird dash setup where the handbrake's down by your sort of left calf. The radio's on the right, that perforated leather all blue. What, 4,646 miles on the clock. I mean, it's hard to know with exotics whether that's real or not. We're in a strange situation here, aren't we, Dom, where we don't know the truth about this car. Before anybody asks and says you're trespassing, we're not. We have the full permission of the landowners. The house and the land and this car are going up for sale shortly. Hence why I had to act quickly, and Dom said, "Do you really want to come and help?" Extract this thing, because
it's leaving tomorrow.
It's leaving tomorrow, and I wanted to get here while it was still sitting in its dusty state. Okay, so I'm going to open that beautiful, almost horizontal tailgate. The lever is down here.
That's got it.
Which is not seized. Considering where it is, I'm surprised it hasn't been more mouse eaten. Look at this.
It's amazing.
Well, does that stay up?
It does.
So the tailgate stays up. Just look again, look at the upholstery, the colour of it, and the suppleness of the leather. It seems to have survived in the dark out of the UV really, really well. Let's have a look. So we've got a battery in it still. Let's hope that hasn't leaked. Bit of mouse plop, of course. That's the battery cover. This is the spare wheel well, which is actually really solid, but there isn't a spare wheel in it. We might find it though around here, who knows?
Never know.
But the upholstery, the blue, and all this piping is excellent. If you hear rustling, it's the dog. It's Douglas the dog. He's eating bits of Vauxhall.
He has a taste for GM.
We've got it. The next step is really we want to try and get these two Vauxhalls out so that we have a chance of maybe shuffling the Espada back into the light. We've got to do it carefully, and there's a lot of GM toss to remove. We might find some rare 80s Vauxhall back there. That car, by the way, is a Cavalier GSi 2000, which I actually really like, but it's had a massive crash. So presumably it's been stashed in here as a donor car for one of these, I don't know. Anyway, the dig must go on. This is so good.
Isn't it?
It's just such an odd story. Yeah, so we thought we'd try pulling it out with the 7 Series first, but don't think that's going to work. Because we need to get the Cav and the Calibra out the way before we can even entertain the Lambo. If you think interior fabric's got a bit boring in the modern world, look, that is an old GM, presumably Vauxhall interior, and there's another one over here, which is even better and more recognisable. This back seat, you think it's from a club. Is it an Astra Club or something?
For a Nova.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think it is Club.
There is a yellow bonnet over there.
Oh, is there?
Nova.
Oh, so then maybe they broke like you said, Nova Club.
I think they broke themselves.
Can't beat a bit of diagonal, today to car, a bit of diagonal stripage. It is, isn't it? 80s bedroom curtains. I was doing a bit of a sort of a history look at Espadas last night. And one thing I didn't realise was that it was originally going to have gull-wing doors. Marcello Gandini, who designed it, wanted it to have gull-wing doors, and one of the concepts had them, but Ferruccio Lamborghini didn't want them. So eventually the Countach, which Gandini also designed, he fitted the sort of the crazy doors on the Countach instead. I didn't realise at the time this was the fastest 4-seat car in the world when it came out. 350 horsepower, this version, at 7,500 RPM. 1185mm tall, 4.7 meters long, 1860mm wide. So it's one of the lowest four-seater cars still in existence. Thing is, this car came out, the Series 3, around about the 1972-73 oil crisis. They made 456 of the final, the Series 3 cars. They were officially called the 400 GTS. Restyled grille, new rear lights from the Alfa Romeo 2000. The steering wheel went from a wood rim to a trimmed leather item. The brakes were upgraded again. It still ventilated discs all round, and obviously independent suspension. It had air conditioning as standard, and you could option it as an auto if you really, really wanted to. But remember this, Lamborghini entered bankruptcy when this car was in production. I'm not saying this car bankrupted them, but the Italian government took over custodianship of Lamborghini and decided to cease production of this car. And I'm not massively surprised, given that they only made 1,217 in a decade. That makes it very rare. I don't exactly know how many right-hand drive cars were made. I'll try and find out before this video goes out. It's being pulled out tomorrow, so this is the last chance to see it in this state, this amazing state of dereliction. And do you know what? Just had a look round it. I think it's miraculous that it's been so well preserved, given that it's been shat on for decades. Look, it's a hedge with a headlight. Story with the Vauxhalls is neither of them have got keys. They're both locked, and this Cavalier here doesn't even have a steering wheel. So we've got to try and drag it out.
Yeah. Bingo.
Old Vauxhalls are so tough. We found some 90s treasure inside the 90s car.
This is the best thing we found all day.
Off your egg.
Part 2.
Part 2. Hey. Happy hardcore bouncing techno. Wham-do project, King of My Castle. Can you imagine listening to that in the cav?
Journeys through Hard House.
Dance Hits 94.
Now 44, track 2. Track 2 must have been a belter.
This would have been flat out round the Lake District roads in third.
Wheel spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah, listening to bouncing techno. Okay, so you're probably thinking, why is there another BMW here? This is our third BMW. My electric BM, unfortunately, doesn't have a towing eye in the car. It's been removed. None of the other towing eyes fit, so I couldn't actually pull with that car, so we've got rid of that. We've got Dom's 5 Series in. He's got snow chains for a chance of traction, because rear-wheel drive BMWs aren't probably the best thing for pulling cars out. Meanwhile, we're digging owl waste out from all around this Cavalier. Was not expecting this Lamborghini barnfind to take quite so much effort to move Vauxhalls. The question is, how many BMWs does it take to move a Vauxhall? Answer, possibly more than 3. We'll see. I think it's clear that none of us have brought the right car for the job today. I didn't realise quite how hard this would be stuck, and everyone seems to have turned up in a rear-wheel drive BMW to this shoot, which is quite unusual. So I think, try as it might with snow chains on Dom's 5 Series, is basically fracking instead of towing. So I think we're going to abort that mission. We're going to see if we know anyone with a 4x4 or a tractor nearby. Otherwise, we will just resort to digging out all of the detritus around the Espada and just try and have a better look at it. But look, that's
had a mishap.
That's the main event down there. The legendary Vauxhall red top. And that's why this car's been saved. I think someone has been meaning to switch the engine from this into maybe that cab over there. All right, so we can't get the Espada out there today, we don't think, but we're going to clear all around the passenger side. This used to have a cover over it, apparently, up until less than 10 years ago. The cover is down there and it's under a pile of owl doings. So we're going to try and pull all that out, dig the wheels out a little bit, move these boards, then we can have a bit more of a closer look at the thing. Don't breathe it. No. Don't breathe any of it. I just want to know the whole story. The more I look round it, the more well preserved it is. The bumper chrome is really good. The door bottom on the driver's side, the outer skin looks a bit frilly, but I mean the sills look okay. All the glass is good. Someone's robbed all the badges, including the bonnet badge, which is sad, but it hasn't been vandalised. The Answer exhausts are still intact. Bit droopy on the left, but hey. I know the Espada is a bit of an acquired taste of a car. It's only really now getting appreciated in the last 5 years, probably. Hence why prices of really good ones right now are about 180 grand. I remember for years they were like 15, 20, 25. There's so many good design features on it, neat ones. And you can tell this was designed by Marcello Gandini, the same guy that did the Miura, and then went on to do the Countach and the Diablo. It's so flat for a four-seater. And not only that, this was going to be a gull-wing car before the Countach. So the only badge that hasn't been stolen is the Bertoni badge on the other wing, on the driver's side wing. Birds have had a really good go at it on here, but despite all of the bird mess, I've noticed in all the right places, it seems to be pretty good. Pretty good. Now, because it's, I think, a Series 3, it's got this design of alloy wheels, which I think was shared with another Lamborghini at the time. They were all made by Campagnolo, and they're all magnesium. I'm going to have another look at the V12. It just seems to have escaped severe rodent damage. Look at that, double brake servo, right on the front corner. So as a right-hand drive car, your feet are over there, where those reservoirs are. Hydraulic clutch on this car. So there's 3 reservoirs and there's 2 master cylinders down there. The Series 3 car had a few little differences. Front grille, you could order it as an automatic. I think only 55 people did, and those 55 people should hang their heads in shame. But 5-speed manual as standard. Do you want to have a look in the passenger side? Come on, let's have a look. It's actually really good. I mean, that carpet is excellent. So the glove box is covered on the Series 1 Espadas, of which they only made for about a year, 68 to 69. The glove box was open. There was no lid. This air conditioning as standard in these later cars. Power steering as standard. Well, that's where a mouse has been living. Okay. But I think it's been playing with the underlay rather than the perforated leather. Can you see these perforations? The detail on the leather, on the squabs and the back, are lovely. And I do think they've probably been preserved because they've been in the dark. So good. So fascinating how a car like this gets to just sit mysteriously. But all of these the tailored mats and everything are really good. I'm going to get in. I'm going to stop blooming talking. I'm going to try and get in. Well, I've never sat in the back of an Espada before, despite cycling past and walking past one as a uni student and admiring all the angles. In the back here, you've got these handles which hinge out the rear windows from the bottom rather than popping out from the rear like most conventional ones do. And that handle is beautifully stitched with colour-coded leather. Grab handle there, really deep little buckets. And I've got quite a lot of headroom. Bizarre, isn't it? If you know of any other cars sitting in sheds, garages, even hedges that you think could be interesting for a feature on the Late Break Show, get in contact. Contact at thelatebreakshow.com, and I'll be with you if it's good enough, if it's interesting enough. And we don't always do rare stuff. In fact, I'll put some links up above. The one for the Rover SD1 Vitesse that we found, that was an absolute survivor. What a car that was. I'm just going to enjoy sitting in it. I mean, it is a bit mousy. A little bit mousy. We never give up on the Late Break Show. This is Barn Finds. 3 BMWs were useless pulling this out. We've had a word with a local farmer. He's brought a Massey Ferguson down. And what we're going to try and do is drag the Calibra out the way a bit, maybe get this out, but we're going to use one of these cars to winch that out, because the problem is we don't know if we can get the Espada out safely without damaging it, and we don't want to damage it. So we might use one of these as a sort of sacrificial ratchet device. Oh yeah, and it's off. Tiny bit of panel damage, it's okay. That's nice and skiddy. Okay, so this is where the Calibra was. One Vauxhall's out. We're going to try and get the next one out while we've got the tractor here. So then what we'll do is we'll see if we can inflate the tyres of the Lamborghini, clear some of the debris out and roll it back a bit more to get a clearer look at it. This is staying here for the time being, mate. I ain't got time to worry about the crashed GSi. I'm going to try and make sure these aren't scrapped. If you're watching this and you really want to save one of these cars, bearing in mind there's no keys and we don't entirely know the condition of the Calibra or this, get in touch with the show. Email in the description.
Right.
That's hilarious. This chap bought this tractor when it was a year old in 1986. Still got the original tyres on it. We can't look under it today, unfortunately, but remember the Espada was fully independent suspension, double wishbones, anti-roll bar front and rear. It was a hell of a piece of work. Coil springs with Coney shock absorbers, twin brake servos, four-wheel discs. Under there is that V12, the 3995cc V12, quad cam, chain operated cam. I was looking at the capacities, I hadn't realised, 14.3 litres of oil, 14 litres of coolant. So just those two, it's nearly 30 kilos of liquids. I mean, that's mad, isn't it? But yeah, a 280 litre boot with a hatchback, can carry 4 people to crack on across the continent. And that's what the Espada was for. Lamborghini needed a GT car that could fit 4, crack across a continent with speed and style, and look as 70s as possible. And I think they kind of got that. But don't get me wrong, it's a divisive car. Not everybody gets it. For me, ever since I saw that one parked down the street from my university digs, I was always blown away by it. It just looks so crazy. It's so low and so wide. This is one of my favourite bits, is the window in the back.
Yeah, I don't know if you can actually see it from the front on the rear view mirror, but it would be...
It's
smoked
just...
glass, it's just awesome, isn't it? And very, very of its period.
Yeah, and the bumpers. These edges of the bumpers are just... There's some good shapes in it.
Are these meant to look like horns of the bull?
Well, I don't know.
They did that sort of thing, like the doors on the Miura.
And the mad shotgun answer exhausts They are very obvious.
Someone stood on.
So yeah, I think this one has been stood on. It's not rotten, I don't think. But what I want to know, Dom, is how did you find out about this car? Because it's out of view.
Yeah.
You've got to know it's here. You could walk past this car every day.
I didn't even know the farm was here. It was friends of mine. It was their family who owned the farm. And one day I was just chatting with one of the family and he said, "Oh, you like cars?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, come up to the farm. We've got an odd car there. You might like it." And he brought me in here, and at that time it had the cover over it.
Okay.
And I was just thinking, well, that's a very odd shape. And I pulled the back up and suddenly there's a Lamborghini Espada and I was absolutely speechless.
I bet you were.
I was just thinking, what on earth are you doing with this?
What's it?
Mr. Man who has no interest in cars.
Yeah.
And then he told the story about it being dropped off and someone never ever claiming it.
None of these cars have belonged to them. They haven't put
No.
them here.
No,
They've all been storage that's expired and the person's never come to collect. It's just weird.
They've all just turned up. None of them are interested in cars.
You've done them a hell of a favour, frankly.
Well, yeah, but they were talking about it going for scrap. And until I piped up and said, well, maybe you should send it to auction instead.
I think maybe you should, yeah.
Yeah.
You could have easily said,
I
"You
could
know
have
what?
easily, yes.
I'll just give you £5,000 for it. It's a nice amount of
Well,
money.
I tried that when the dad was alive, but it didn't work.
What's your favourite part of it?
All this, the rear end is very, very, just little bits like the fuel caps and the...
Yeah.
It's just such a weird, low, long shape.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in with any other style of car that's ever been built, apart from maybe a couple of Lotuses, and that's it.
Yeah.
But they're about 2 feet narrower
Yeah.
and 5 feet shorter
It looks like it should be aquatic. Even more so than
than the Bond car.
Than the Bond car, yeah, than the Lotus. It's great.
I love it.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me come and have a look at it and getting permission from the owners that we could, do this
No
film
problem.
and kind of pull these old Vauxhall bits
Well,
out.
I think
and
we've done them a favour in the end.
Well, we've dragged out 2 Vauxhalls
Yeah.
and we've got it as visible as we were ever going to get it, I think.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will go to someone that, and I presume it will, go to someone that actually understands what it is. Well, it isn't every day that you get to uncover a car as interesting as that. A genuine barn found Espada. I hope you've enjoyed the journey of us going in, being able to have a sympathetic poke around it. If you know of any other interesting cars that have been lying in hibernation and derelict for years and years and you think they're interesting enough, get in touch with me at The Late Break Show. I'll put the details in the description below. Thank you ever so much to Adrian Flux Insurance who support the Barn Find playlist. I will put the entire playlist of all the cars I've been and looked at in the past on the screen now. Thanks ever so much. See ya.